Welcome back to the third installment of my special four-part series, 30 Guys I Want to Own in 2015 for my fantasy rosters. My name is Andy Singleton. You can find me on Twitter @PeoplesPen, and this is the Nickel Press Show. Hope you've enjoyed the quarterbacks and the running back segment. Today we'll talk about wide receivers. I got 10 guys on this list, and finally we'll wrap it up with another episode covering 5 tight ends. Just want to remind everybody, I've seen a lot of the comments saying that they wouldn't have guys I have on this list in their top 10. Again, these are not rankings. This is not a top 10 list. These are just 10 guys I'm comfortable with based on where they're going in drafts and their ADP. This is more intended to be a tool for you to use to help the needle if you're on the fence about a particular player. Hopefully this is an endorsement that will help you feel more comfortable about taking that guy. So again, these are basically just a culmination of all the research and readings and findings and notes and studies I've done since February, March. And now being in August, draft season, these are the results of what I found. So again, these are the 10 guys, 10 wide receivers that I'm most comfortable and want on my fantasy rosters in the 2015 fantasy football season. I'm going to start with A.J. Green. Now, many of you are saying A.J. Green, that's kind of a no-brainer. And you know what? I would say it is. But the last 3 years, he's been drafted as the wide receiver 5, the wide receiver 3, and last year is the wide receiver 4. This year, he's fallen to wide receiver 8, which puts him somewhere in the second round. The reason I want to endorse him is because I want you to realize he's a true wide receiver 1 that you can get in the second round. So that should make you feel comfortable about going and taking somebody else in that first round, more towards running back for my recommendation. A.J. Green, when he's healthy, he's still a top 5 receiver. He was on bad wheels last year, and if you prorated his season to a full 16 game schedule, he was still in the neighborhood of 85 catches, 1,200 yards, and 6 touchdowns, which is an A.J. Green season, and right on the border of a wide receiver 1. Factor in that he's healthy again this year. He's got help surrounding him in the form of Tyler Eifert, Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu, and a very impressive running game with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. And A.J. Green is definitely somebody you should feel comfortable taking. And if I can get him in the second round where others are passing on him, I'll be glad to have him as my wide receiver 1. If I can shore up another wide receiver in the first round and have him as my second wide receiver, even better, especially in a PPR league. Take A.J. Green this year. You won't regret it. Number 2 on my list is my personal favorite wide receiver for 2015, and that, of course, is DeAndre Hopkins. I went over him kind of extensively in the preseason Week 1 episode, so make sure to go back and check the notes on that. But just to reiterate what I said there, he's basically shown to be quarterback proof. You shouldn't fear the other guys in that offense because there are veterans lining up opposite him at wide receiver. Jalen Strong is going to come on strong as a rookie. And the running game, losing Arian Foster is not nearly as bad as people are going to make it out to be. And finally, Nook is a third-year wide receiver, which if we all remember, third-year wide receivers is a great time to see a big rise in performance from the wideouts. So go strong with DeAndre Hopkins. Gladly take him late second, early third, and you'll be happy for it. Third guy I'm most comfortable taking this year is Golden Tate. Now, the belief is that with the healthy Calvin Johnson, he's going to regress. He might slightly to some extent, but he's still a very capable wide receiver 2, and depending on what happens with Calvin, he could even push for wide receiver 1 numbers again. The truth is, they coexisted last season. Now, yeah, he did get a bump in Calvin Johnson's 3-game absence, but that was only to the tune of about an increase in 16 targets, which translated to about 7 more catches on his season. So when you factor that in, it really wasn't that huge of a jump. It's at least not the jump most people would like you to think it was. Bottom line is, don't be scared off by a healthy Calvin Johnson. Golden Tate is still going to be productive. This is still a high-powered passing offense, and Golden Tate is a solid get in the 4th round, which is currently where he's going. 4th guy on my list is the only rookie on this list, and that, of course, is Amari Cooper. I think he's a pretty safe player going into this year, even despite being a rookie, despite being in Oakland's offense, depending on what you think of Derek Carr. If you use last year's class as a reference, I think it's safe to say Amari Cooper is a combination of Sammy Watkins and Odell Beckham, which in hindsight would be amazing. Now that might seem like a lofty comparison to make, but he does have a combination of both of those guys, and I think it's safe to assume that he's going to have a healthy and productive season. If you doubt Derek Carr, consider that he had 6 games of 2 touchdowns or more as a rookie, and he showed to be pretty efficient, only turning the ball over 12 times on the entire season. That was 12 interceptions as a rookie. Also consider that with Blake Sims, Amari Cooper went off in the SEC. He not just had a good season, but he absolutely killed it. 124 receptions for 1,700 yards and 16 touchdowns kind of killed it. And that was with Blake Sims throwing him the ball. I recently tweeted that I would pass on Antonio Brown in the 1st to gladly take Martavis Bryant in the 5th, and that was seen as a knock on Brown. It's not a knock on Brown, it's actually an endorsement on the Steelers offense. The only difference is Martavis Bryant in the 5th is a lot cheaper. I want a piece of the Steelers offense. I want one of these receivers. And Antonio Brown in the 1st is just too high of a price tag for me to feel comfortable taking. However, Martavis Bryant, I get some action in that Steelers offense, plus I get an emerging stud. He's an absolute mismatch for secondaries with his 6'4" frame and a hard target for Big Ben to miss. Now, he did falter a little down the stretch as a rookie last year, and he was a little bit of a boom-bust guy, but it's hard to ignore his efficiency for finding the end zone with his 8 touchdowns as a rookie. Look for Bryant to emerge this season and continue to put up solid numbers and with a lot more consistency as well. Many believe Allen Robinson to be one of the huge breakouts for the 2015 season, and the truth is, had he remained healthy for his entire rookie season, it'd be a lot clearer to see the case for this. He was on pace for 85 catches and just under 1,000 yards as a rookie. Now for me, his touchdown total keeps him from that elite level. However, hit the peripherals he puts up will still put him in wide receiver territory. And that's, of course, with all the upside for the touchdowns to increase. It depends kind of on what you think of Blake Bortles and the Jaguars offense, but I think they're going to continue to take steps forward, and I think Allen Robinson picks up his touchdown total. So again, you factor in the solid catches and yardage, and then you factor in some touchdowns, and he is going to approach that wide receiver 1 production. Bottom line is, don't view the Jaguars quarterback and offense as a hindrance. Robinson can and will put up a solid floor and can potentially shatter his ceiling. Before Michael Brown broke his fingers, John Brown was looked at as a potential breakout candidate for 2015. Now the buzz has only gotten louder. There were 5 games in which he had 8 or more targets, and in those games he had 22 catches. That's not a lot to assume he can maintain, especially with natural progression and the loss of Floyd. That pace will put him at around 70 receptions on the season with close to 1,200 yards. What's more, the 2 guys Brown most often gets associated with, in Antonio Brown and T.Y. Hilton, put up almost those exact same numbers in their second seasons. There's a lot to like about John Brown, and getting him on your roster as your wide receiver 3 is definitely a solid game plan. The 8th guy on my list is another one of my hometown Jets, and that's Eric Decker. Now, you can make the argument for Brandon Marshall, but he's going a lot earlier in drafts. When Decker left Denver, it was widely perceived that there would be a huge regression out of the comforts of the Peyton Manning offense. That didn't necessarily hold up. Now, there was some regression. His touchdown numbers weren't the same as what they were in Denver, but he did have a pretty solid season and put up wide receiver 2 numbers. Well, once again, he's being completely overlooked as he's falling all the way down to the land of the early 11th round. There are approximately 48 other wide receivers going ahead of him, yet he has proven he has the floor of a top 30 guy. And his situation in New York has only improved. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the best quarterback the Jets could have under center. Brandon Marshall is lining up opposite him. Overall, look for the Jets offense to steadily improve this season. Best bet is Decker can be had on the cheap as your wide receiver 5, and he'll continue to put up low-end wide receiver 2 numbers. That's a tremendous bargain to have. Similar to Decker and with an identical ADP is Stevie Johnson, now on the San Diego Chargers. I know it's supposed to be Steve, but can we ever really consider him anything but Stevie? Now, when you look at Stevie Johnson's career, he really only had one good 3-year stretch, and that was already in the seems like the distant past. So why am I so high on Stevie Johnson this season? Well, the answer is directly tied to Phillip Rivers. Rivers is that good. I don't care about postseason Phillip or win-loss Phil because that doesn't affect my fantasy team. But it cannot be disputed that Rivers puts up numbers despite the talent surrounding him. Stevie Johnson has incredible talent. He likely is the 3rd receiver in San Diego, but even Eddie Royal in that role has been desirable. I'd rather have Decker on my team, but if I miss out on him, Johnson's upside as my 5th wide receiver is something I'll gladly take, especially in the 11th round. Everyone thinks Russell Wilson is on the verge of being elite, if not already there. But the truth is, last year he showed some regression when he threw for only 20 touchdowns. Yes, Jimmy Graham is in town, but he's not a one-man show. The Seahawks didn't bring in any new receivers other than rookie Tyler Lockett. Now, I personally love Tyler Lockett, but again, he's a rookie. And Doug Baldwin's still the #1 wide receiver in Seattle. He's guaranteed to be a top 50 wide receiver, yet he's going way late in drafts if he's drafted at all. To have him as an insurance policy or a bye-week starter shouldn't go overlooked. Let's just say you had Kelvin Benjamin or Kevin White or even both. Wouldn't you feel a little better looking down your bench for week 1, knowing you had someone who was going to produce for you? Be the guy that drafts Baldwin, not the guy that gets beat by him. All right, that's going to wrap it up for my 10 wide receivers that I want to own in 2015. Hope you found this beneficial. And if you want to go back and check the running backs and the quarterbacks, you can do that as well. This has been Andy Singleton, People's Pen on Twitter, with the Nickel Press Special Edition for your drafts. Take care, everybody, and good luck this season.